Today we are talking about process organization, process identification, how and when a process should be documented, when it shouldn't be. And we're going to be going through this whole topic by looking at the four key functions, which is TouchStone's tool for process identification and organization. Before we get there, I just want to explain what you're looking at now for those of you who are not aware briefly, and then we'll get right into the four key functions. The way these sessions will go is I'll start in the beginning, technically kind of talking about, like in this example, how to use the four key functions, which will be pretty quick. And then we'll get into the strategy behind it all. So what you're looking at now is called the dashboard. And the dashboard's purpose is to give access to the processes to your employees. So that's what it's intended for. It's about the implementation and the using and the managing of the processes. We can all sit here for hours and years on end and document SOPs, and if nobody's using them, then there's no point to it. So if you want to have a process dependent business or even have processes that semi work in your company, you've got to get people to use them. And the dashboard functionality is all about that. First, employees knowing where they are and how to access them. Then managers enforcing them, making sure the employees know where they are, they're being trained in them, they're being referred to, they're being innovated. So we're going to talk about this theme about how to get employees to use the processes all throughout this next 7 weeks, because it's so important. But I just want to point out now that this dashboard here that's what it's here for. A person gets assigned their position right here under my processes. And when they select it, it takes them to a list of everything that they do. And if I expand this, you'll see. So here's all the processes that the fine office manager is responsible for. These processes are organized into these little groups, like you're seeing here. So if you click my processes on the dashboard, or you click any one of your employees and you see the default list.
Hey
So
Shannon,
yes.
I'm not sure if it's just me, but I'm not able to see the screen. It was on, but then it's all black. I'm not sure if that's the case with everybody.
Oh, good to know. Let's see.
I see the screen fine.
Oh, you do?
Okay, I'm gonna make sure that everybody else can see the screen. Okay.
I just blipped it on and off. So is anyone else having a problem seeing the screen? You can give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down in the
I see it fine.
Okay. You might be on the wrong screen of yours, maybe.
Okay, I'll try logging back in, see
Okay.
if that fixes the issue.
All right.
Thank you, Shannon.
Of course. So where I left off was here on the dashboard. If you click my processes here, or you click an employee here, and you see a one group and it says default list, that's something you should try to fix right away. Because if everything's in the default list, it makes it harder for employees to find things, to know what's there, to when they click that default list, it opens in one huge list and it feels overwhelming. It's like, wow, what is all this? It just immediately there's this adverse reaction to it. So take a few minutes and create groups. Get your employees into their processes to create their own groups. That's the best way. I think that's a fabulous way of doing it because they're going here, they're organizing, they're dragging and dropping. So that's 2 cents on the dashboard just here in the beginning. All right, so let's go over to the four key functions. And I'm going to click the first key function here. So this is called the four key functions, and I'm going to go briefly over technically how to use it, and then we're going to get into the strategy behind it all. What the four key functions is it's a method or a way of organizing your processes. We take the business, look at it as a whole, and cut it into 4 parts. So these are the 4 parts: strategy and management, marketing and sales, admin, finance, and operations. Any business that is out there, any industry, and I've been doing this for over 25 years and I'm yet to be proven wrong, you can cut into 4 parts. In some businesses, maybe this, if if you don't manufacture or service anything, maybe this area is bigger and this is less, but nonetheless, it still exists. In people who've had their accounts for a long time, you may have this labeled as guiding the business, getting the business, running the business, doing the business. This is terminology that we've used in the past, and we decided to not do it that way anymore for new TouchStone users because it caused confusion in some cases. So to eliminate confusion, make it as simple as possible, these are the 4 categories. So you're looking at your business from above and you're cutting it into these 4 parts. When you're going through this exercise, you really want to eliminate people and personalities and who does what. Don't think about who does what at all. Don't think about the position or the person doing that work. Purely think about this from a systemic kind of process-driven point of view. It's like if somebody asked you to create a list of all of the work that occurs in your business, what would that list be? So these 4 key functions, when you select them, and you can select them across this row, or you can go over here and select them on the navigation, which will always exist here to the side. When you toggle through these 4 functions, we see categories, so we call them sub-functions, which are these headers here. And I can collapse to the side here just to show you these 4 categories or sub-functions that I have in administration and finance. I can click just one to open it, or I can click just one to close it. I can also drag and drop them around. So everything's drag and drop on this screen. You can take processes and drag them from one category to another just by dragging up and down this way and that way. And then you can always expand and collapse over on the side. When your lists, after you've done this exercise and your lists are long, this tends to be a good way to kind of see, what do we have here overall? And then you can assess each by just clicking each of the sub-functions. Up here at the top, edit function title will allow you to change these 4 categories. It's totally up to you. We recommend these 4 areas, these 4 subject areas. Having said that, this is your system and you can name it whatever you want. If you start to my 2 cents on that, if you start to get too detailed with these 4 main areas, you'll run out of areas and you'll be saying, well, why can't we have 5 or 6? Well, you're just making it more confusing because the categorization of the processes occurs here in the sub areas. So think 4 key functions. You can edit them here. Right to the right, this is how you control the sub functions. So the sub functions or the categories are here, and the processes, I'm just going to expand this again, are listed inside of the categories. So you can see it's like a big outline where you're looking at 4 key, you drill down, you see sub areas, and then you see the processes. So everything related to the sub functions is controlled here under this toolbar item. Very simple. You can create them, you can edit the ones that are there, and you can delete them. To the right of sub functions, this is how you control the processes. So right here, click processes. This is where you create processes. And then this is where you can delete processes. If I hit delete, it's not going to automatically just pop and delete things. You have to methodically hit the drop down, choose the process you want to delete, and hit delete. Another way to delete processes is to click the process and to go here and delete. So there's 2 kind of buckets for delete here on the process itself or back on the 4 key functions. To the right of the processes toolbar item, you'll find our library. So if you hit the drop down here and you choose General Process Library, you're going to see a list of example processes. Some of these are grayed out because they're in my system already. So that's a way of knowing. We're going to talk about something called the top 50 SOPs. And I've given you, I should have mentioned this in the beginning. In the chat, there are numerous documents that I'll make available during each session. So you have one now called the top 50 SOPs, and it's a PDF which goes into explaining what they are, how we came up with them, and it gives you a list of what they are. You're also going to see mission purpose values, which I'm going to go over in a minute, and there's a link to make a copy of that in a Google Drive. And then there's a document called the 80/20 of SOPs. And that is, and we're going to talk about that also. And it's just an outline of how do you decide, what are the processes you need. So here in the library, you're going to see a lot of the top 50 SOPs listed here. I think there's more than that in this library, but you'll definitely see the ones that you're seeing on the PDF. So in the library, if you want to download a process, you just click the box right here. And then up here, I can decide which sub-function to put it in, which category, and then I just hit copy. And it'll take the process from here, it'll download it into my system, and then it grays out so that you know it's in. Each key function, strategy and management, marketing and sales, admin, finance, operations, all have their own library. So if you want to see processes related to marketing and sales, you're going to click that key function, and then you hit the library here, you go to general processes, and then you're going to see all of those processes. So check out every one of the key functions and take a look at the library processes. If you delete a library process, it will put it back into the library. So you're never going to lose the library processes forever. So I'm saying that specifically because some of you who have had accounts for a long time, you may have in the beginning gone and downloaded a plethora of library processes. People get excited, like, oh, look at all of these, and you want to look at them all. It's totally fine, but it might be time for you to clean those up. So clean up means look at them, ask yourself, defining your target market. Do I really need this? You might need it. So a better question to ask is, am I going to document and use this in the next 6 months? Am I committed to documenting it and having it followed and used, getting this result of defining your target market? Because everybody knows that that's an important thing to do. But the question is, are you committed to doing that? And if you're not, I'd recommend you delete it for now. It'll go back into the library. You can pull it down later when you have more time to deal with it. The last thing you want is to download all of these processes. You'll probably have over 100, not 50. And then you're like, it's confusing. It feels overwhelming. There's a lot here. And sometimes people take a look at it and just get overwhelmed. And you get this paralyzation and you don't know what to do. So it might be time to go in and clean up those library processes, being reminded that when you delete them, it puts them back here into the library. Okay, so that's the basics of the 4 key functions. It's not hard to use. The concept is simple. And we do this on purpose in TouchStone because we want to keep things clean and simple. The 4 key functions is only something that is seen by admin users. So an admin user is somebody who has access to everything in TouchStone, including being able to go over here to account administration and add and remove users. So your managers, your frontline employees, everyone else except for the people designing it all, so the owners maybe, sometimes high-level managers, those types of people are the ones that have access to the 4 functions. If you create a user in TouchStone, you make them a user, you can assign them to the things they're responsible for. You can even assign them to their processes and then make it so they can edit and change and create new things for their position, but they won't have access over here to the 4 key functions. This whole section disappears. So that's important to know because this is kind of like your playground. This is where you're designing things. This is where you're identifying your processes. This is where you're organizing them and you're assessing them and you're making sure that everything in the 4 key functions is something that's relevant and important for you to document and use. So when approaching the 4 key functions, the first thing I would do is get set on the sub-functions or the categories. So we'll start here. So this is strategy and management. And what I'm talking about is creating these categories using this sub-functions. So think about what are the categories within strategy and management that are important to me. One that I kind of think is missing, at least from this list, is board of directors. Save. Easy as that. And so now it's right down here. And I spelled it wrong, but it doesn't matter. So board of directors. Board of directors is going to be for processes related to you having board meetings. if I say board of directors and you're thinking, we don't have a board of directors, we don't need that, that doesn't pertain to us, try to rethink that. Because the board of directors is this position up here. It could be called owners, shareholders, whatever you want it to be called. It doesn't have to be board of directors. We all know if you're a corporation, you have to document minutes and all of that. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the actions of the owners of the company. So your agenda up here as the owner, if you are an owner, is to maximize the value of the business. It's like you are creating an asset down here, which is going to generate dividends for you owning it. It's going to get equity as it grows. It's going to produce income, passive income for you just for owning it. That work sounds important, right? It is important. It's the work of the entrepreneur. All the work down in here, that's not, I mean, you have to care about that, but that's not what you care about when you're the owner. You care about maximizing the value of your asset, which includes making sure this work is all happening, giving direction to the president, who then gives direction to each of the departments. So here in strategy and management, think about that type of work. What does the board do? What meetings do you have? Annual meetings, maybe. So think of the subfunctions. Typically speaking, in strategy and management, we're going to have a strategy subfunction. That's pretty obvious. We're going to have a management subfunction. So all the processes relating to managing your people, getting results through your people, and then meetings, and then board of directors. You can put meetings under management if you want and just have two. So keep it simple. Think of that. Think of those four being, close to what you should have. Marketing and sales. So here, identifying subfunctions, marketing strategy is a good one. So the strategic side of marketing, what do you do? Create a marketing plan, thinking about your marketing goals, analyzing your competition, whatever is important in your industry. Think of marketing strategic processes, which then influences everything else, right? It influences what advertising you do, what your sales process looks like, any social media you produce. So marketing strategy, some type of advertising. These two are kind of similar, advertising and social media. Social media is so big for most industries. Separating it, I think, is a good idea. Separating it from just general advertising or lead generation is another way of saying this. Same thing, though. And then you got sales. Now, you might have other categories in here. If you're a business that does estimating and you consider that to be an important part of sales, maybe you have an estimating subfunction. But generally speaking, these are kind of the four that I think every business should have. You can have more subfunctions if you want, but think about this. If there's not going to be more than, say, 3 processes within the subfunction, like I've got 4 here, then think of combining it with another subfunction. Because again, I'm all about simplicity. Let's keep it simple, because the more complicated it becomes, the more difficult it is for everybody to understand. So simplify, less is more. So if your subfunction is going to have less than 3 processes in it, maybe combine it with another subfunction. Admin finance. So same idea. Think of the subfunctions. Finance should be one, clearly. Administration, that's also belongs here. It's in the title. IT, so anything related to your computer software, hardware, web tools you use, anything related to technology. And then, of course, human resources is very important here. You could break finance up into have finance like bookkeeping type processes, and then you can have like financial management, which be the higher level things like budgeting, cash flow. Or you could keep it simple and just have a finance subfunction. These are generally the 4 I see. Now, if your industry deals with a lot of legal or compliance or safety things, maybe you want a compliance subfunction or a legal subfunction. Other than that, these are typically the 4. When we get to operations, here's where it gets really industry specific. So I just have 3 general here just to make the point. Customer service is probably one that everyone will have. Client service, customer service. Production, if you produce something. Service, if you deliver something. Now, if you're in a restaurant, you might have front of house, back of house. If you have a warehouse or you deal with equipment or materials, maybe you need a warehouse or a materials section. If you have a fleet of vehicles, then you need, a vehicle section. If you produce different types of things, like you do residential and commercial, maybe your production is not just one, it's two. If you have labor and production and service, then define all those separately. If your service delivery is finite, so you have certain types of service, then make two instead of one so you can categorize those. Sometimes there are, with service delivery or production even, there could be production processes that are specific to certain services, but then there's also like production general, like production processes that are related to all services. So think about those complexities and list out your subfunctions. If you're struggling with this at all, then get a hold of us because we've seen every industry known to man and we can give you some guidelines on the types of subfunctions you need. While on that note, there's a button that's in the bottom corner here of your screen called Need Help. I wish they could make this bigger because people miss it. Right here, you can schedule a free meeting with us whenever you need it. So this link goes directly to that. And then this is a new AI that's built in to ask questions about TouchStone you can use. And these are links all to the Resource Center and different topics of things that you might find interesting or might have questions about. So come up with your subfunctions, then start listing out your processes. You can go to the library, pull down processes that you like from there, and then go here, processes, and create the processes. When you're identifying your processes, in some situations, you can think of workflow. So if we're here in sales and marketing, you can think, okay, lead comes in, what's the first thing that happens? Well, do you need lead qualification? If you do, enter that process. What happens next? Is it different based on where the lead comes from? Where is it funneled next? Is an appointment made for sales down here? Do you schedule a technician to go out? So you can start to think of workflow order, then what happens next, then what happens next, all the way to the delivery of your service here, and then the billing of it here. This doesn't work for every industry, but it might work for yours, and that helps you kind of bullet point the main things that happen along the way. When you're creating your process titles, make them short and clear. Accounts payable, collections, cash flow planning, deposits, invoicing, 1 or 2 words, 3 at the most. If you get beyond 3 words, you're starting to describe what's happening rather than identifying the title of it, identifying the name of it. You have to be able to name it. What is that process? You can't expect people to be able to do it unless you can name it and think clear and specific. If you notice in your account, you've got processes and they're all named differently. So you've got, sentences that are process titles. You have phrases that are process titles. Go back and just pare them down. So right here, if I select this process, there's this section called the objective. So here this says, ensure all company bills are paid on time and in the company's interest. Well, sometimes I see people putting that as the title, or ensure all bills are paid, or pay bills on time in the company's interest. That's not a good title. That's like a phrase or a sentence describing what goes on in this process. So oftentimes you can take the title, cut it out, paste it into the objective, and then rename it with something short and simple. I like things to be clear and consistent. So use normal naming convention, which means first letter of the word is capitalized and then the rest is lowercase. Some people like all caps. I've had debates with people about all caps, and then I go look at their account 6 months, a year later, and then they got processes that aren't all caps and ones that are because other people have been in there adding. So just be mindful of things like that if you're interested in it being consistent. Just a little bit about the color coding you're seeing here. These processes here are black because they've been marked as complete. When you see a process that's blue, and let's see if I have a blue one. I don't think I have any blue ones in here. But when you see one that's blue like this, that means that there's something in it, like somebody has started the documentation of that process, but they haven't finished it yet. So when I say something in it, I mean somebody has built a work plan maybe, or they've built a checklist, or they've put a form in it. So they've started to construct it, but they're not done with it yet. It hasn't been approved. It's not ready to be used. So that process will be blue. When you're ready for it to be completed, when you're ready for it to be implemented and used, it's been vetted, you all agree it's good, you hit this little check mark called documented, and then that turns the process title black. So it's manual, the blue to black. So you see it's black. If you see a process that's red, like these down here, that just means it's a title. There's nothing in it yet. So if you were to click it, you just see, the title itself and maybe the objective, but there's nothing over here. Like nobody's started to work on it yet. There's this wheel on your dashboard, which is always a reminder of the status of your processes. So I have 89 that are documented. I've got 10 that haven't been started, and I've got 2 that have been started but aren't finished yet. You can then click this view report too to see it this way. And you can also click here to see the processes themselves in a list. So these are all that have been done. And if I want to see, what hasn't been started yet, I can go here. Clearly, you can see it over in the 4 key functions if you're clicking around there, but this is just another way to view it in a more direct way. Ideally, this would read black, like everything's finished. It's not always like that, but this is like just this constant reminder of where you're at with the documentation. So let's go back here. So clean titles, short naming. So let's talk about what processes are important to document and what aren't. So I would say processes that are essential to document are anything that is high risk. So any kind of work that has to do with safety or legal compliance or customer data, anything that is a place that your business is vulnerable. That is an essential process to document. Finance things, I think, often get overlooked. There's a lot of embezzlement in small business, so having really tight financial processes is really important. Anything that's customer facing, so things like this over here in customer service. Your customers are everything to you. We all know the statistics about how you make so much more money when you keep your existing customers, and it costs like 10 times what it would to keep one than it would to lose it. I didn't say that in the best way, but you get the idea. So anything that's customer facing is really important. Onboarding customers, dealing with customer complaints, follow-up emails, making sure after a project is finished that the customer is happy. There's many reasons for doing that other than just making sure they're happy. That you also want to get reviews. You also want to make sure that there's not something that didn't get covered that they're just not going to bring up to you and go off and complain about it online. So anything that's following up and customer related. Anything in your operations that has to do with the delivering of the product or service in a really good way. So in a lot of industries, you deal with something called cost of goods sold, and that's where a technician or an employee makes a mistake. They ruin materials. They take twice as long to do something, and that costs you money. And it doesn't matter how many sales you have, if you constantly have this issue with delivering your products or services in a profitable way, you're never going to make money because the cost of goods sold goes along with sales. It's a percentage of sales. So think about any of the processes that are related to delivering of your product or service well. Now, here's where this idea of education comes in. So when you're going to hire somebody to be working for you, so we go back to the org chart here, like these people here, and a service business has the same situation as this. It's just not called tech. So when you're going to be hiring people, you want to think about what the minimum qualifications of that position would be. So if I'm going to hire an apprentice tech here, what are his or her minimum qualifications? If I expect them to have a high school degree, know how to use a computer, know how to use Google Drive, then I don't need as processes for that. I don't need to document processes for how to do all that because I'm expecting that they know that. Same thing with like bookkeeper here. What are the minimum qualifications for the bookkeeper? If this person should know, has been certified in Word or in QuickBooks or whatever accounting system that you use, you don't need detailed SOPs on how to run QuickBooks because you know you're hiring a person who should know how to do that. Receptionist, if you vet someone carefully and they have a good demeanor, they can speak well, you don't need processes explaining how to speak well. So think about the minimum qualifications of the position. Now let's think of the reverse of that in a way. Let's imagine that you want to grow your own talent from within. So you want to take kids off the street and hire them here, teach them how to be an apprentice tech, move them up to junior, teach them how to be a junior tech, and then move them up to senior. If you want to do that on your own, and pay the least amount you can here and then slowly move it up incrementally and giving them wage increases based on what they're learning and you're teaching them, as opposed to giving them a higher salary because of the education they already have. If that's your goal, then you have to have great processes for how to be an apprentice, how to move up to a junior, how to move up to a senior. Now you can outsource some of this. It depends on, how you're deciding to do it. Maybe you send them to a tech school to, once they get here, kind of prove that they're worth it, and then you send them to tech school to be a senior tech. Well, you need to have processes on how that happens, but you don't need to document the processes for how to fix the HVAC unit because they're going to learn that in their school. But you need to make sure that they're getting to the school, you're sending people that are the right ones to go. When they come back, they're actually doing it correctly, so managing them. So think about what your situation is for this and consider your operational processes and what is really vital for you to document and have a process for, and maybe, what's not. Anything I think around HR, is important to document. Now, some people, you might use an HR, you might recruit HR you might outsource it, where it becomes, less important for you to have detailed SOPs on interviewing, say, if you're relying on someone else to do the interviewing. You just need to have processes on how you interface with that company to give them the requisition for the employee, explain what you need, have them send it back to you. So it becomes more like administrative human resources. But if you're relying on your own business for this, then these processes are extremely important. Recruiting and hiring, onboarding. I think even if you're using an outsourced HR company, I think onboarding is very important. If you can bring someone on in a great way, really show them this is my business, this is what we're about, this is what you're going to be doing, this is the training we're going to give you, meet all the people, how can we make you feel comfortable? If you do that well, then people are going to stay. If you don't do that well, then you're going to lose good people. So we're going to be going over two processes related to new employee onboarding here before we go. So think about your HR processes. Employee evaluations, super important. Communication. I think 75% of the things that go wrong in a small business have to do with poor communication. So having really good meeting processes where you're having one-on-ones with your employee, you're having department meetings, you're having management meetings, you're having extremely productive, well-organized meetings where communication is happening. And it's not just negative communication, it's positive. Like, what new are we going to do? How is everyone feeling about what happened last week? Or what new processes do you think we need to make all this better? Like really engaging your employees in that type of conversation. Basic things like employee handbook, clearly important. Warnings, verbal and written warnings. In benefits management. So anything HR related, these basic things I think are really essential. Another thing to consider is where you have bottlenecks or mistakes happen. So SOPs related to that are essential. So for example, a new customer gets sold over here, then that customer needs to be brought over to operations to be fulfilled, given what they bought. and then they need to be billed for it, or it needs to be accounted for over here in the office department. So if there's a bottleneck between the handoff between the sales and the operations, you have to have an SOP for that. If this department isn't getting the information they need from what's happening here or what got sold here, well, clearly that's a bottleneck. So there's these processes that cross departments, which can cause huge amount of like time issues and wasted money and frustration. So focus in on those processes. Think about where mistakes are made here in your operations in particular, or in sales. Where do you lose leads and why? Why haven't you converted a really high qualified lead? What happened here in the sales that caused that? And then focus on that process. If that's not an issue, then maybe that's a process you don't really need to have. But if it is, then identify what it is and develop a process for it. Also, the basics things around the core business functions. So finance stuff, payables, receivables, collections, budgeting, cash flow, stuff like that. Things happening in marketing. So posting the social media posts, creating content, the sales cycle, all of the kind of things that would be considered kind of core what you need to do and have happen well. Some obvious things that don't need to be documented. We'll talk about that for a second. I would say common sense type things. So how to turn on the lights, how to open the mail, how to make coffee. Like I hear a lot of business process experts talking about, everything needs to be documented down to how people walk in the door. I don't believe that. I think you get into overkill with that. You get eye rolls for that. It gets to be just over the top. Focus on the 80-20 rule. Really 20% of what is documented is actually produces 80% of the result. You've all heard that analogy before. So get rid of these ultra easy basic things. Now, if mail is getting lost, and you don't have a how to deal with the mail process, I would look at this person and their capabilities and whether they had the minimum qualifications and whether they're competent or not. So just because the issue is happening doesn't mean it's because the SOP wasn't there. Sometimes the person isn't competent. When we're talking about turning on the lights and dealing with the mail. Things that are really simple to be outsourced, like changing, dealing with printers that break or dealing with computers that break. I don't think you need to have a process for how to fix those things. Simple cultural things like, how to greet each other or, how to talk to, people politely. I think, you need to vet that kind of stuff before you hire an employee. So things around software usage and tools that you use. If you're requiring everyone to have a basic set of computer skills, well, then again, you don't need to be explaining people how to open up Microsoft Word documents. So that's just my 2 cents on that. I think it's really easy to go over the top with all the SOPs and make too much. So think about some of the things that I've said and really focus on what's important. Anything that costs money when it goes wrong, anything related to money or reputation, anything that supports the growth of your company, the scaling of your company, like this situation here where we're talking about junior, senior tech going from here to here to here. This is about scaling. So all of these SOPs become really important. All right, so let's go back here. So just a few more points on process identification. So we have this outlined. You've got the 4 key functions. You drill down into sub areas like these. Then you drill down into processes. Inside of each of these processes, a lot of stuff happens. So accounts payable, it's a pretty broad term. Collections, very broad term. So there's a lot of details that go on related to this process title called accounts payable. So I'm going to talk for a minute about the difference between what would be a subfunction, what would be a process title, and what might be content within a process. So this is a good analogy, and we'll go through a couple of these. Finance is a subfunction within this admin finance area. It's a category, a broad category. Then we have accounts payable, which in my opinion is a process title, everything related to paying bills. Then inside of accounts payable, there's a lot of work that happens. There's a lot of workflows. There's a lot of tasks of different things that occur. And you identify those things with work plans. So when you choose a process, it takes you to this screen, and this is where it's created. This is where the tools are used to actually document the process with. So here to the left, I've got, you see all these work plans here, and this is just an example of this idea of ensure all bills are paid on time and in the company's interest, accounts payable. Now, I could have a subfunction back over here called accounts payable instead of it being a process. And then I could have all of these work plans here be process titles. But you can imagine if I did it that way, how huge the 4 key functions would be, right? It makes your process identification and organization way bigger and more confusing than it needs to be. So combining things and putting them inside of broader titles is a better way to do it, particularly if these are things that are done all by one position. Now, even if all of this is done by multiple positions, you can still link this process title to those people or those roles on the org chart. And then multiple people could have access to all of these things and be able to use them. And a lot of times in finance, there needs to be like cross-training anyway, so it still works. But definitely if a process is done, the things within it are done by the same person. There's no reason to scatter all of these all around the 4 key functions and have it be that huge. I mean, we're looking at a list here of, maybe there's 10 per process here, could even be 5 or 6. If we did it the other way, where those work plans were all process titles, we would have 10x that. And when you would click here on your admin finance, you would be scroll all the way down to see all of these processes. So look for ways you can combine if your 4 key functions is looking like that. If your 4 key functions is looking like that, go here and maybe schedule a meeting with us. And within about an hour, we could help you clean it up. So there are ways in TouchStone of taking work plans out of one process and moving them into another. So like this one on bill paying, I could go here and I could take this work plan out of this process and move it into another one. So if you do have processes that you think are too broken apart, then you can combine them pretty easily just by taking everything within one and moving it into the other. So you notice here on this screen, see I've got all of these different workflows. So if we're thinking of accounts payable, the next question is, well, what happens in accounts payable? We pay bills, we cut checks, we run the payables report, we do vendor approval and setup. So each of these items here have tasks associated with them, a step-by-step for how that's done. And because this is critical, we've already established this is a critical process related to managing of money, then this all does need to be documented. So the steps would be identify the process or identify the subfunction, identify the process, and then identify the work plans within it. And you can do that before you even go in and start documenting anything. You can identify all the work plans that are needed. And so again, these are step-by-steps for how to pay bills, how to cut checks, and they're broken up into these separate work plans. Now at this level, when you've identified, these key items within accounts payable, and if you are looking at this process title called accounts payable and you're thinking, well, what really happens in accounts payable? Go to ChatGPT and say, make me a list of processes that happen related to accounts payable. Now you can go to our library and download this and you'll get examples already pre-built for you in the library processes. But if you're struggling with that at all, ChatGPT is a great solution. What it does do though is it will overcomplicate things. So just be mindful of that because it could return 50 processes related to accounts payable. And it's up to you to go in and be discerning about those. Don't just cut and paste everything in because it's just going to be overkill. I'm going to be talking quite a bit about this as we go through the 7 sessions. What I'm seeing with the invention of AI, all these different process documentation tools through Loom or through Scribe, which we have embeds for that I'm going to show you. But all of these options available out there nowadays with the invention of AI is causing a cluttering of documentation. We call it SOP chaos. It is process overload. So many of you have so many different things and you're thinking, well, I need an SOP for this. I'm going to go to ChatGPT and have it create it. And then suddenly you've got 10 things and you just give them all to your bookkeeper and say, here, use this. First of all, it doesn't always work that way because in the real world or in real life, you do things a little bit differently. And then again, oftentimes it's overkill. So be discerning about what you accept from ChatGPT, but you certainly can go and say, give me things related to accounts payable. Once you've got the work plans in here, you can use our AI in TouchStone to build out a basic set of tasks for you that then need to be gone in and edited and kind of made your own. So for paying bills, let's assume that you use QuickBooks. So the prompt is create a step-by-step for paying bills in QuickBooks. And you can put in whatever accounting software you use and hit go. And now this is using ChatGPT to come up with a step-by-step for paying bills in QuickBooks. And it will give you, this pre-built, set of tasks or instructions as soon as it wants to. If you glance through it and you think, okay, this looks good. I mean, it looks close. You can hit add to work plan. And now it's built into a work plan for you. But here's what I mean about ChatGPT AI process documentation overload. This isn't, you can't just be like, okay, I'm done, move on to the next thing. This has to be gone through. Like you have to make sure it actually works. So logging in, navigate to the expenses, all that, if that seems accurate to you, select bills to pay, initiate the payment, hit create payment. I mean, this is a pretty much a no-brainer because it's using the knowledge about how to use QuickBooks to come up with this. So it seems like it's pretty straightforward. You could go in and add screenshots to this if you want to make it, more obvious, or you could decide, this is good enough. I think this works. But it does give you this really excellent head start. So with that in mind, once you create all the work plans, you could just go clearly cutting checks. Now I'm going to do it again and build out the work plan. Then payables report, how to run a payables report, use the AI, build the payables report. And in a matter of 15, 20 minutes, you would have fully documented this process. Now, again, it needs to be gone through and you need to make sure it works, but this is kind of a quick and dirty way of getting that documentation done. And with this new AI technology, going back to this scenario about the minimum qualifications, well, maybe over here, I don't really need to hire a $75,000 a year bookkeeper that's fully certified in all of the things and has 10 years of experience. Maybe I don't need that person. Now you've just built a pretty comprehensive step-by-step for how to use QuickBooks and how to do the basic things you need done for simple bookkeeping. And you linked it to this role, and you can hire someone in who maybe has an associate's degree and not a master's degree in this and teach them how to do the bookkeeping. Well, now you're, growing your own talent from within. And it's happened much easier with this invention of AI. All right, so let's go back here. So for those of you who have had your TouchStone accounts for a while, use this as an opportunity to do a cleanup of your 4 key functions. So what's necessary for that is for you just to simply start with the first key function and go in, look at the first process you have on your list, look at what you've got in the work plans, look at the tools that you have, look at the forms that you have, ask yourself, is this good? Do I need an end of the year checklist? And is the content at least started? Is it finished? If the answer is yes, I need this end of your checklist, I like it, then move on to the next process and go, okay, KIP cards, do I need this? I'm going to look at the work plan here. Okay, I want to keep this. This looks good. And then move on to the next one. If though, you say to yourself, this is just, I'm never going to do this. We're never going to do KPI scorecards for sales. I don't need this. Delete it. Get rid of it. Don't use it. If you're worried that you like this process and you know you're not going to use it in the next 6 months to a year, but you don't want to lose it forever, go here to the library and check if it's a library process you might already know. If it's a library process, feel free to delete it. If it's not a library process, it's something that someone created a year ago, but no one ever used, but you're afraid to get rid of it, create a subfunction and call it archive or whatever you want to call it. And then take that process and drag it down here to the bottom and then go back. So what we're doing is we're not getting rid of it completely, but we're moving it out of the way of the 20% of what we need. Also, if you do decide to do this archive idea and move it, go to the process and hit this link to position and just take it off of all of the positions that it's on. So if you've linked it to a role on your org chart, but you're going to archive it for now, get rid of it, then remove it from all these positions so that it's not, it's not in front of people's awareness anymore. So then go back, go to the next process, click it. You can. My mouse is wonky. Look at it, ask yourself, is this something you're going to use? If the answer is yes, this is something you're going to use, you're going to keep it. You're going to document this within the next 6 months. It fits in this analysis of the 80-20 of SOPs. Then while you're here, make sure it's on the right positions just by clicking here. So here I can see I've got it on Ops Manager, I've got it on Office Manager. So make sure it's on the right positions. It's just a double check for you to do to ensure that you've got this linked appropriately. If it's not on the right positions, then you can remove it by clicking, or you can add it just by clicking. Remove, add, super easy. So take the time necessary to clean up your 4 key functions. This is your visual map of your business. This is all of it. This is your business explained. Like if you go to sell your business one day and the buyer sits in front of you and says, what do you do here? Why is your business worth $5 million? You're going to say, let me show you. Come over here. Look at this. This is all the work that happens in my business. This is the high-end, most essential work that we do. It's all documented. Now, that's a beautiful business, right? Like that's a business worth buying. That's a business that is worth at least 50% more than one that doesn't have all this, because it's not owner operated. It's not dependent upon you or anyone else, any one of your key managers, any one of your key people. You have it all documented. So make this important. If you have 100 processes, maybe you spend 5 minutes per process just reviewing it. Might be a little tedious, but well worth it. You're verifying, is this correct? Do I want it? If it's not the 20% of what I need now, either I'm going to delete it or drag it down to some category below and just leave it there for now. For those of you who are brand new to TouchStone, use this as an opportunity to sketch out your business. Think about all the processes your business needs. Go to the library here. Pull down things that you like from the library, but don't overdo it. Add what's missing. Think about what's essential. And lay out a map, lay out a blueprint of your business and all of the processes. Really try to put your entrepreneurial hat on. Don't think about people or Bob and all the things that he does or all the tasks that are happening by a certain person or an issue you have in one area because someone's the only person who knows how to do all these other things. And so you don't know what that work is. So just get rid of that chaos that it goes on in a lot of small businesses and really think with your entrepreneurial hat on, what is the work that happens in my business? What are the essential things that occur? There are two processes here and here that I'm going to highlight today just because I think they're an easy win. They're can be related to employee onboarding, really easy to do, and a good way to get employees into TouchStone actually seeing something if you're not ready for them to see it all yet. So welcome to the company. This is a process that's in the library you can download. It's super easy. Learn all about the company's mission, purpose, values, and more. So down here, there's some templates. So welcome to the company. This is just a document. Welcome, team. We're delighted to have you here. Write something like that. Like, what is your game worth playing? Like, what is your value? Why should people get on your bus? Like, what is the message to your new employees? Remember this idea that you're going to spend a lot of time vetting the right people, hopefully, because the cost of a bad hire is enormous. You have no idea. So really vet your people. Once you have those types of people that fit your company, welcome them in a genuine way. Make a company story. This is also a really easy thing to do. This is like a template for it. This is our journey. This is what we're here for. This is what we're about. This is what we all believe in. You don't underestimate the power of culture. And if you don't have culture, then your people aren't integrated. So what is your story? What is your reason for being here? Write that out. Do a little welcome to the company video. Take your phone and have someone hold it in front of you. These don't make a Hollywood production. It's just a waste of time because things change so often. Especially in today's world, like we're all used to seeing like ad hoc videos. It's not a big deal. You don't need to have, a videographer come in and do this for you. Hold your phone in front of you and say, "Hi, I'm Shannon. I just am so glad you came to work here. Let me show you a few things. This is the office. This is what we do every day. This is Sally." So just do a welcome to the company video. Then download that to your computer and drag and drop it here, and then boom, you've got this company video. So simple, you don't have to overcomplicate it. Then work on your mission, purpose, values if you don't have something like this already. So this is a tool again that you can download. There's a step-by-step for doing it, but it's so simple. Go down to this document and read. This is the mission, this is purpose, these are our core values. So there'll be a template that explains to you how to come up with the mission, but this is kind of what it looks like at the end. So create your mission, your purpose, your values. Then go simple. This is not even one page. So make it really simple, like 2 paragraphs. This could even be a phrase. Then once you've downloaded these 2 processes from here, mark them as public. So that's what this is, the P's. And to do that, you just hit this little public, complete them, turn them black, put them in the public folder. The public folder lives over here on the dashboard. So the public folder is for company-wide information that everybody needs to have access to, everybody needs to see. It's not the accountability of 1 or 2 people, it's what everybody needs to see. So make it public, and what that means is whenever anyone logs in, they're always going to see this here. And when they click on it, mission, purpose, values, they're going to see the document here. This is our mission. When employees are new, you can even assign this to them and say, "Hey, review this for me," and then complete it. And then when they do that, you get a notification back saying so-and-so has read the mission, purpose, values. But it's always sitting here on your dashboard, ready for you to view. And you can start to use it as a way of deciding things as well, or as a way of addressing issues that might come up between employees. So if we really believe that we practice honesty or we live with integrity, if you see things coming up that are out of line with that, then you can stop and you can say, "Listen, these are our core values. So let's get back on track with it." Then also this welcome to the company, it'll live right here, it'll have your name on it. And someone goes here, they can read the mission, or they can read the welcome message, read the company story and watch the video. And then same idea, you can assign this to a new employee as part of their onboarding, and then they get this nice little welcome to the company for themselves. All right, so the documents that I talked about today are in the chat, and you can download those. If you have any issues with that, email me. I can email them to you as well. Next week, we are going to be talking about organization strategy. So we're going to talk about the basics of building your organization chart. But fundamentally, we're going to talk about organization strategy, which is the strategic side of the organization chart. It's the kind of how to build a future chart, how to use the chart. In my opinion, this organization chart is one of the best management tools any business can have. And I'm going to explain to you why. I'm also going to throw in something which I think is exciting, and that is what we're calling AI positions. So the concept is every position here on the box, is a role, is a person, and you're not going to get rid of people. That's not what we're talking about. But every position on the chart, every role can get supported by AI if possible. And there are simple GPTs and simple things that even no one with IT background can create. So I'm going to be showing you a few ideas around that, with the idea being that for customer support, say, you could put in AI processes right here in TouchStone on their process list, and then have a link to a GPT that does certain work to make this person, the customer support position, more efficient. So all that's next week.